This is Richard Hayzler, proud principal of Pequannock Valley Middle School, a grade 6 through 8 school in Pompton Plains, New Jersey as part of the Pequannock Township School District. And welcome to this week's episode of Learning Sparks, where we learn and grow together talking about instructional strategies that enhance student learning in your classrooms. And today I'd like to talk to you about an instructional strategy that's used in all classrooms throughout the country, and that's cooperative learning. Cooperative learning can be a very powerful tool when sparking student learning. It's when students are working in small groups on a common task. But cooperative learning, when not used powerfully, can look like disguised inactivity. And that can be a dangerous thing when you're looking at student learning. So we're going to talk about in this episode of Learning Sparks the benefits of cooperative learning, and then some tools and tips for you as a teacher to make sure that you're using cooperative learning powerfully in your classroom. So let's talk a little bit about some benefits to cooperative learning. One of the first benefits of cooperative learning is that it develops social skills among students. Today, students are hiding behind technology. They have it at their fingertips all the time, and they don't get to communicate with their peers in a face-to-face way. Cooperative learning, when used effectively in the classroom, helps develop social skills among students. And in fact, it really helps them work on something like this, where they're working on eye contact. It's a lost art in communication today with our young students. Cooperative learning helps students learn from their peers. When you're looking at students and working in isolation or working with technology, that communication piece is not always there. They don't get the opportunity to learn from their students as much. But when they have the opportunity to work in groups, you could have students that may be really good at a content being able to explain it to someone who may be struggling or doesn't understand. And so it can help bring those students along within your classroom. Another benefit is that students get engaged in their learning. When they recognize that they're part of a group, sometimes students will tend to work a little bit harder. It's up to you as the teacher to make sure that that happens, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. But cooperative learning is usually not something where students are focused on recall, where they're just researching, finding an answer, and then sharing it. Most of the time, they're solving what should be complex problems and using critical thinking and design thinking skills. And then that leads to a fourth reason why cooperative learning is beneficial, and that's building trust. When working together, students build trust with one another, and developing relationships is a critical component to student success in any classroom, regardless of what strategy you use. And then the final reason why cooperative learning is beneficial is that it helps students gain confidence. When students can see that they're successful when working in groups, they're successful on a task that they've been given, you spike student confidence and you start to build it. And that's important because we all know that students need confidence in their classrooms. And so as a teacher, when you use cooperative learning, here are some tips for you to make sure that you use it powerfully. Number one, you want to make sure that you establish group goals. What is it that they're trying to accomplish as a group? It should match the learning outcome of a lesson. So make sure that you establish group goals. The second tip I'll give you is that you want to make sure that you keep class sizes manageable. Students groups should not be more than 4 or 5 students, because then it becomes more difficult for students to share ideas, to have a voice, and to really understand what's happening within their group when they need to come to a common consensus. Third tip is make sure that you norm the groups. Maybe have something posted in your classroom of what cooperative learning looks like. Okay, you see behind me there's a bulletin board here of what good group work should look like, where students can see pictures. There's some rules set up here. And so when students know what the expectations are, they will work to meet those expectations. Another tip, the fourth tip, is have some group roles. Every student should be assigned a role so they know what's happening and what they're supposed to do. Whether it's a recorder, a timekeeper, a leader, and those are just some of the roles that you can have. It's make sure that you assign them a group role. And that leads to the fifth tip in how they're going to be assessed. If they have a group role, then they'll be assessed on whether or not they can accomplish that task, but also what are they contributing to the group to make sure that they meet the learning objective. Maybe it's a rubric, you have a checklist, whatever it may be that the students have with them to make sure that they're meeting the needs of that learning outcome. For cooperative learning to be effective, the sixth tip, use a variety of strategies. Find one that works for you. Okay, what is it? What type of strategy may you use? Is it a think, pair, share? Is it paired heads together? There are a variety of strategies out there. And that'll be a whole separate episode of Learning Sparks to talk about specific cooperative learning strategies. Something else that works is help students use inquiry. Make sure that students know how to ask each other questions. Maybe you need to model that. Maybe that's something where you use some students in the class and you set up a demonstration, or you bring in some of your colleagues and show students what it's like to work in a group setting. Because something that we take for granted is that we think students know how to ask questions, and that's not always the case. And so it's important for that aspect to make sure that they understand that cooperative learning involves some inquiry. Another tip is to figure out what type of technology you're going to use. And now with cooperative learning, with technology, it makes cooperative learning very easy. You have Google Docs and Google Slides and various apps where students can take their learning outside the classroom and work in groups. We used to have to make sure and call up parents and make sure that we had a proper time that we can meet. Now you can do it from home. The last two tips I'm going to give you, the first one is focus on improving critical thinking and design thinking skills. When you're working in cooperative settings, show students what that means. Set up steps for them to complete, that they're working together, or they know that they're trying to solve for a solution. And then the last piece is make sure that when you're using cooperative learning, students know to value diversity. There are so many ideas out there, and every student brings their unique gifts and talents to their group. Make sure that they're utilizing those talents and those skills, and that's what makes cooperative learning so successful. It can be a very powerful tool to spark student learning in your classroom. So I look forward to continue talking about cooperative learning with you. If you'd like to reach out to me, you can find me on Twitter at Rich Hayzler. I'd love to continue to learn and grow with you. But thanks for joining us this week on Learning Sparks, and always do what's best for kids. Have a great day.